Yeah, man, you guys missed a great solo. Sorry. Too bad. Uh,
Anyway, just let me tell you a little bit, like I was saying before about Alan Herman. And again, I apologize. I have no idea about this technology. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it don't. Most of the time, it's been working. But anyway, today I'm presenting to you Alan Herman. For you who are not familiar with Alan Herman, number one, he's a Juilliard graduate, and he's worked for Bob Fosse on all the Broadway shows, Jesus Christ Superstar, Dancing, Pimpin', Sweet Charity, etc. He's been on Broadway for, I say, 10 years, and then he went on the road with Randall's Island and Ten Wheels Drive. And so what I'm going to do, I'm not going to do too much talking now. What you need to do is just enjoy, sit back, and have a lot of questions.
okay, hi.
Al Herman.
Yeah, so this could be interactive. If you have questions for me, this would be a great time. At any point, I'm going to go through a very foundational, like first lesson, right from the beginning. And I want to present a concept that I think is really important, that I'm personally putting a lot of my focus on, which is endurance. I like to work on control and endurance as opposed to speed and power. Although speed and power happen to go along with the package when you're practicing the rest of the stuff. But anyway, just to go through in general about the technique. The number 3 comes up a lot for me. There's three levels. There are three points of mass: arms, wrists, fingers. So it's built in stages. In stage 1, we build the wrists, and then stage 2 we add the arms to it, and stage 3 we add the fingers to that. So basically, we want to develop a nice basic wrist stroke, and there's 2 basic types of strokes. There's the free stroke and a control stroke. I'm going to do this quickly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this, but the free stroke basically is just free to return where it starts from. It's just an entire wherever, and it could be any level at all. It could be low, but whatever level we start at, we end up, and that's free. And then the control stroke is when we change the level to a lower level, or we can change it to a higher level. And there's 3 strokes. So there's the free stroke, and then there's the down control, and then there's the up control. There's the number 3 again. Okay, so that's that. And we're using a rebound to bounce the stick back, just to make the one stroke. So I'm throwing the stick down, basically. I mean, a lot of people talk about throwing it. I don't like to really present it that way. And some people actually do that and let go of the stick, which is good. I like letting go of the stick because I don't really want to hold on to the stick. That's one of the things we have to work on, is to be able to control the stick without actually touching it. There's a lot of mental telepathy involved with that. So what we want to do, what we're working with though, to get the best physics out of it, is that we want to stay in balance with the weight of the stick. So we're doing a rotation, and the best way to stay in place is to stay in the center of the rotation. And, the further away you get from the center of rotation, the more you're going to get pulled away from the center of the rotation. So that's why the stick flies out of your hand. Because you're not in the balance, but you're not turning your weight with its weight as one. So you're going in 2 different directions. So, and you also have a balance point in your head. This has mass. The stick has mass. The 2 together have a mass together. The mass has a center of balance. You want to stay in the center of balance. I look at it like riding a bicycle. You want to stay, in the center and balance and upright, or whatever. And then I'm not using a grip. I'm not holding the stick on either hand. I'm just You know, I mean, this is not playing. This has nothing to do with playing. I'm holding the stick. This is resting. Okay? Right? Well, the only time I'm playing is when the stick's moving. I played. It moved. But I wasn't holding it. I was trying to follow it. Right? So if I throw it down, it'll bounce back up. And it'll make a sound. And so I don't need much energy to get it back. And I don't need a lot of energy to throw it down either, because I got the momentum of the weight of my hand and the stick and the gravity pulling it down, and then the rebound pushing it back up. So I don't really need to work a lot. I don't want to. I mean, I can, you know. And the physics is that the faster the stick moves, or the speed, the louder the sound's going to get, which is power. So it's really the same thing. We're talking about two aspects of the same property. You know, the faster the stick goes, you know, if the stick moving slowly makes a sound, the stick moving quickly makes a bigger sound. So speed equal power, power equals speed. So, you know, and I'm working on my speed, even though I'm not playing speed exercises, because I'm working on the linear speed of my wrist, how quickly I can turn my wrist, which is really what your speed is based upon. You know, when you're trying to play fast and you're playing low, your wrists are not moving that quickly. They're moving much quicker when they're up here, because they have a lot more distance to cover. So, and that's what makes the height give you so much volume, because you have so much potential, accelerated potential energy. Okay, so that's what happens. So there's two ways to do this, you know. So I want the stick in my hand to move as one, and I can throw it slowly or I could throw it quickly. But so what I want to do is I want to learn to use the least amount of energy possible and to stay in the most relaxed state. I'm not worried about the speed. I'm not going to work on the speed now, and the speed is not going to come from me trying to push the stick faster, because that creates tension. The speed is going to come from the metronome pulling me up and making me accelerate, because the faster the metronome gets, the quicker I'm going to have to move to get up and down. When I hit a certain point, I got plenty of time to go up and down when I'm doing a slow tempo. So I want to throw it as slow as possible, because I want to learn to follow the stick down, and I want to learn to follow the stick up. I want to be moving the same speed down as I'm moving up, so the whole stroke has the same speed. It's not quickly down and up. I want to feel the stick go down. So I want the stroke to take up the space, time and space. You know, and it helps me with the time. I fill the time up with motion, so I'm playing, and I fill the space up. I'm using the entire space, and I'm trying to keep it even so that I'm accelerating and controlling it through the whole thing, up and down. And I don't want to throw it faster than I have to. Now I have to throw it at a certain speed because gravity will pull it down from me. If I try to, I can't throw it like this. I'm holding on to it, that's why. But if I try to throw it at a very slow speed, gravity is going to pull it down anyway. So I have a certain amount of acceleration for gravity that I have to account for. Plus, I need to throw it down enough so that it has enough to rebound back up. So I got to give it some energy on the way down, so it'll be faster than gravity would be accelerating it. And gravity will add to the acceleration that I'm doing. I want it to have enough energy on impact so that it comes back to where I started from. So I need a minimal amount of acceleration just to get it back, and that's all I want to do. And I want to turn my whole hand with the stick as one unit. I'm not holding on to the stick. I'm trying not to hold on. I'm using as little flesh as possible. The less flesh I use, the nicer the sound is. If I use a lot of flesh, I don't get as delicate a sound. So I'm letting all the vibrations happen, and I'm letting the stick resonate as well. So that's what I want to do. So the less flesh I use, the better. Of course, you can't control it that way. I want to keep my hand around the stick so that my weight is in balance with the stick, and I'm using my entire mass and momentum in the movement on the way down with gravity to generate the energy for the stroke and to return. You know, I'm using some of my energy, but as little as possible. Now I could speed this up, and I'm not speeding up the speed of the stick. It's slower, but it's all at the same speed. It's the same volume because I'm using the same speed to get up and down. Now it gets to a point though where I don't have time to stop anymore. And now it just becomes one continuous motion. Like dribbling a basketball, but I'm really using the entire arc, and I'm trying to learn how to turn my entire wrist in a circle around the center of the balance point of both my hands. You know, so I'm trying to create a perfect circle with the stick. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking at my hand. I'm trying to not use my hand, but what I want to do is get the stick to do a circle in place. In perfect rotation with my fulcrum and the weight of in the center of the turn, and as well as I can get the mass of my hand around the stick evenly, so that there's no flywheel effect where it doesn't get pulled out from one side to the other. It's nice and steady and even up and down. Okay. So once I reach this point, though, now there's no time between anymore. So now, in order to, if I want to accelerate even more, then I don't have any space to take up. So now I got to move the stick faster because I'm trying to get through the same space in a shorter amount of time. So as the tempo gets higher and higher, it gets louder and louder because I have to move the stick faster and faster to get up and down. And this is what's building my speed. And if I go incrementally, one step at a time, from 80 to 84 to 88 to 92 to 96, and get used to, you know, how much energy it takes me minimally to execute the space in the amount of time given. And the space is the level. Okay. It could be a half stroke, it could be a quarter stroke, it could be a full stroke. We're talking full stroke. We want the full range. Okay, so that we're working the entire range of our body. And that's going to give us our maximum potential energy, which is going to give us the highest volume. It's going to require the greatest hand speed. And that's going to pay off when we bring the stick down and we don't have to accelerate the maximum speed. We can do multiple repetitions instead, and then the faster we can go up and down, the more repetitions we get, and that comes out as speed at a lower level. Even at a high level it looks like power, at a low level it looks like speed, but it's really the ability to move your wrist quickly and stay in balance, stay on the bicycle and not fall off the bicycle, stay in, you know, and use the physics involved. Okay, so really, the first thing I want to do with a student, the first thing I want to do is teach them to bounce back. And like I said, I'm not trying to hold the stick. I'm trying to move the stick evenly up and down, straight, in a perfect circle around the fulcrum with my weight in balance and using a minimum amount. But I want to get them from here to this, to here. That's the first challenge. The first challenge is being able to let go of the stick and bounce it back up. The second challenge is to get to the point where you're not stopping in between and you get a continuous motion. I call this a stage 2. You know, stage 1 being separated And what the stick control book is all about is learning how to get from one stage to the other evenly without breaking the sound or breaking the pace or breaking the motion, continue the motion in a natural way. I'll show you what I mean by that. Like 1 and 2, which is single strokes at a medium tempo, is stage 1. Plenty of time to stop in between. If you go over to 13, you have 4 in a row. Now, I'm not stopping. I'm doing 4 continuous strokes and then stopping. So there's a difference. I'm using 2 different techniques. I'm using a separated technique on 1. And this is what makes the paradiddle so difficult, because the paradiddle is a rudiment that takes these 2 different things and mixes them as closely as you could possibly get it. You know, it's hard enough to do a bunch of singles and then do a bunch of doubles, but then, you know, I could do less. I could do half that amount. I could do half of that. Or I could do half of that. And here we are doing a paradiddle, and what I'm doing is I'm coming in and out. Stage 1, stage 1, stage 2, stage 1, stage 1, stage 2. So that's the next skill that I want to develop with a student, is to get to that stage 2 where they're doing a continuous motion. Okay, so the first thing I do is I do a table of time, because I want to accelerate slowly, but that's very disciplined. But a beginning student can just do a slow accelerando. And the idea is, if I was working to see how fast I could throw it, I'd see how fast I can go and keep it separated, because that's the highest speed I can throw my wrists at, which would indicate the fastest tempo I could play separated. But I want to do the opposite. I want to jump to stage 2 at the earliest possible moment. So as soon as I get to the point where I don't have to stop at the top, then I'm on the bicycle. Because it takes a lot less energy to do this. It takes more energy from a dead stop to start and catch. Start and stop, start and stop. Once I start doing this, I have the momentum of the stroke that carries me into the next stage. You know, I'm carrying the energy over. So I'm not, in other words, when I'm doing this, I'm not working as hard. And as I speed up, I want to continue not to work hard. I just turn my hands. You know, but I have to learn how to stay relaxed, and I have to learn how to turn with acceleration without increasing the tension. The tension is going to increase naturally the faster you go, because that's how it works. That's how our muscles work. Our muscles work on tension, so the more we use the muscles, the more tension we're going to generate. The idea, though, is to keep the tension level at so low enough so that the recuperative process of your musculature can make up for the energy that you're using to use the stroke. Now, once you reach that even point where you're recuperating as quickly as you're using the energy, then your endurance level becomes infinitive. And that's really where your endurance comes from. It doesn't come from strength. You know, it comes from being able to relax and manage the tension needed for the speed and height that you got to move the sticks up and down in the amount of space and time that you're given to do it in. Okay? So that's the first thing I want them to do, is I want them to get into this continuous motion as soon as possible. Then you can continue on, but wherever you continue on to, And I'll take a long time to go up there. Like I said, I'll do the table of time to get up there very slowly, incrementally, a little piece of time. And then when I'm done, when I get up to 12, I just don't stop. Then I start coming down, but I can't. I mean, I could do it. I like to do it non-subdivisionally, just to do a straight decelerando. Because what I'm trying to do then is to elongate the stage 2 feeling as long as I can, to as slow as I can do it, which is going to be slower than what I was able to do when I started. Until it's just impossible, I have to give in to the stage 1. And the whole thing is about learning how to get from this to this and get back and extend the range that you operate in a stage 2 when you're in a continuous motion and using the full time and space value. You know, otherwise you're going to have to use a non-continuous motion. But there are, when we play, though, we use a combination of these two things. We use a single stroke and combinations of multiple strokes. You know, and like I said, that's what stick control is supposed to teach us, how to do that without pushing or pulling the tempo, or without pushing or pulling the volume or the intensity, and to be able to do that at a high volume, and to do that at a low volume, to do that quickly, to do that slowly, to have control and develop this endurance by learning to manage our tension, by learning how to use a minimal amount of energy to execute something. If you have to play loud, you have to use energy. You know, but you don't want to practice loud all day. I mean, you want to practice the whole range, right? So if you practice the whole speed range, you also get to practice the whole power range, from slow to fast. There's also from soft to loud. If you keep the time and space, I mean, keep the space the same and then decrease the amount of time you're allowed, which makes the acceleration. So the next thing I want to do then is I want to give them exercises that are going to nurture this ability to play slow and control and to stay with the stick and be able to control the tempo of the wrist, have a lot of control over your speed. As you see, I have so much control. I can actually do an accent pattern from a full stroke position and still do a quad accent, because I have two different speeds. I can select a slow speed or a fast speed from the same position. Now it's much easier to do that because I did the amount of potential energy between the tap down here and you know. But I'm just showing you scientifically that it's not really the height. The height just gives me the opportunity for potential energy, but it's not the height really, it's the speed of the stick. I can play soft from up here, or I can play loud from up here, because it's about acceleration, speed and power, same energy. If you do it high, it gets loud. If you do it low, it gets fast. Same thing, you know. So for the warm-up, and this is what I do every day. I mean, I do the table of time from 1 to 12, and then I do a decelerando down back to 1 again. It takes me about 5 or 6 minutes to get up and 1 or 2 minutes to get down. And then now I'm ready to work with stick control and to really nurture this. You know, now that I've reacquainted myself with the continuous motion in a completely relaxed state with minimal amount of energy, and I've reacquainted myself with what that feels like, and touched my range of ability. How slow can I do it? How fast I can do it depends on how I feel that day. Now I'm going to do exercises that work on that for me, and also help me to learn how to come in and out of the two stages of what I call the single stroke, and then the double stroke is the same thing. The double stroke is a stage 2. I can make it stage 1 by slowing it down, and the paradiddle is all stage 1. I've gone through this before. But where we get faster, the diddle becomes a stage 2. And we can get to a stage 2 with the singles, and then the diddle becomes a stage 3. So I start using my fingers, which is a stage 3. You know. But the idea is to get the evenness, you need to be able to come from one thing to the other evenly. You know, so those are the two things. We want to learn how to come in and out of these two techniques, free stroke techniques. These are not control stroke techniques. I'm not dealing with control strokes. Control strokes are another advancement. Okay. And we also want to nurture the continuous motion ability. So we get into what we call VAMPs, or continuous motion exercises, interspersed between the stick control exercises, which are designed to make you comfortable going in and out of the different stages in short amounts of time, and then we do a VAMP in between those exercises to sort of practice the continuous motion to get that going. And then at the end of each exercise, I add an actual single stroke vamp, which is double. We're working with eighth notes in the stick control book, and I'll do 2 exercises, one repeat. Do the exercise twice, and then I'll vamp on the left hand. Then I'll do number 2, and I'll do the exercise twice, and I'll vamp on the left hand, and then I'll do a left hand single stroke vamp for 16 bars. And then I'll raise the metronome, and then I'll do the same thing again with the next two exercises. So one increment at a time. It takes me a minute or 2 to do it. I wound up doing a 16-bar endurance, full stroke power vamp. Plus, I'm working the stick control exercises in between, and I'm learning how to. Before I put the hands together, I'm actually working them individually to try to focus all my attention on one hand to make sure I'm relaxing as much as possible, and then I work the back and forth and look at the other hand, work it as much, work it a lot and try to get as relaxed as possible, and then put the two together and try to maintain the same relaxation I had when they were working one at a time to put it back together 2 at a time. So what that looks like, basically, I'm going to do 1 and 2. Begin with, which is page 5. We're talking about 80. What is 80? I don't even really need a metronome to show you this, but I will. You want to put 80 on this? 80, but actually 84. I use 80 for the table of time, and then I use 84 because I want to start incrementing right away when I start working the stage 2 long stroke. Okay. So number 1 is this. Now again, I'm just trying to make perfect circles with my sticks in the perfect center of the balance point of the stick, with my hand, with the weight of my hands wrapped around the stick, but not pressed against the stick. And this is all stage 1. Very easy. Hit, stop, hit, stop, hit, stop, hit, stop. I'm stopping between each one. So after doing this, so there's 2 bars on each line. So if I do the exercise twice, that's 4 bars. And then when I get done with that, I'm going to do the same amount of time with just my left hand. When I get done with that, I'm going to do line 2, which is the same exercise reversed for 4 bars. And then I'm going to do my right hand. And then I'm going to do the 16th note endurance on top of that. So it's going to be this. Then the repeat. And then the vamp with the left hand. And I'm not holding on to the stick. I'm just trying to bounce it like a ball right into number 2. As slowly as I could do this. And then I'm going to do the right hand. I'm going to concentrate on doing that with my right hand. Now notice I could do this. And I could do it separated, but I'm not. I'm not doing that. I'm doing this. Not separating. Okay, so then I do the right hand vamp, and then I'll go into this. It's not hard stuff to do. This is not fast. I'm not gripping the stick. I'm just trying to get the same sound, the same speed, up and down. This is the second time through. Now the third time. It's 4 times of the exercise. Seems very boring, but what I'm trying to do is get in the zone of not feeling any work. I'm riding the momentum of the sticks, and I want to get into that state, that relaxed state of using a minimal energy, using my full stroke, moving my entire range of motion, and staying in that relaxed state for a long time. Now I'll bring it up. But the blue one does that.
Which one? Which do you want?
All right, so now I'll bring it up 1 notch, which will bring it to 88, and then I'll do number 3. Now, number 3, we're doing continuous motion only for 2 strokes. And then we go right into the continuous motion for the same amount of time with the left hand. Again, trying to touch the stick as little as possible and to keep it in balance. And no wasted motion. The only thing that should be turning is your hand and the stick in a perfect circle. Now I'm going to work on the right hand. This is 88. Now I'm going to do that long vamp again. I'm not trying to play loud. I'm not doing anything. All I'm trying to do is stay in balance with the weight of the stick and just turn my hands using a minimum amount of pressure, not using any muscles in my fingers. Just following the stick up and down. Okay, now I'll go up and up. Now I'm ready for another notch. Here we go. Right?
Which one do you want?
What?
What do you want?
92, I got it. All right, so now we get to the paradiddle, which is the mixture of the separated single strokes and the short, elongated, continuous motion of the double stroke. Again, I could do it this way. But I'm not going for speed, I'm going for relaxation and endurance. The sound should not change. The speed should not change. The height should not change. The direction should not change. Same sound. Okay, touch space on both hands, and I'm going to learn to use them together. Perfect circles. The more circular, the more efficient. Not this. Okay. Then next, 96, we do second parallel. I'm not going to continue to do this.
Blue button now.
Okay. So what happens though is because I'm doing this kind of endurance and I'm incrementing one notch each time, I'm doing a very, very, very slow accelerando. And I'm spending a lot of time at each point making sure that I'm staying relaxed and just turning my hands and staying in balance so the stick doesn't get pulled out of my hand. It doesn't take much tension to hold on to the stick because I'm in the center of what's going on. And you can see it, I'm not really working hard. I can do that for a long time. I can do lots of long single strokes way up here. So when I come down here, I've developed a lot of speed because of my linear hand speed. Working on that. I'm adding little fingers along with that too. Okay. So I got my power going. I worked on my speed. I worked on my endurance, and I worked on the control of going from one element to the other without breaking my tempo or breaking my dynamic.
Questions?
Yeah.
We have any questions here? One question was, Al, the traditional grip as opposed to matched or German or French. You've been playing traditional, and someone has requested you to go over a little bit about the traditional grip. He wasn't specific in saying that.
Yeah, I mean, I could do, my traditional grip is a little untraditional.
Don't be lying.
No, it's true. I'm not, most people, there's a lot of, all right, well, first of all, let me go through it from the beginning. The difference there's a difference in the rotation. The right hand, the rotation happens at the wrist this way. Doesn't involve much of the forearm. The forearm can pretty much stay stationary, and the pivot point for the hand is at the wrist. Okay, that's the fulcrum for the wrist. Okay, the fulcrum for the stick is in here, in the middle of all of this weight. Now the turn on the left hand is this way, like you're opening a doorknob. Now that involves some movement with the forearm. The forearm does twist. And it also changes the environment of the balance point because it's much easier to turn from the center of your balance point in your hand when you're moving this way because the turn is back here. That's not where the balance point of your hand is. So we sort of have to try to emulate and imagine that the balance point is in there when we're turning our hand around the balance point, even though we're attached to the wrist. It's a slightly different rotation. This is actually, I like this rotation better. It's more natural. And it's the original rotation, going back to the old days, with Moeller. I mean, when he used the right hand that way too. The difference in the holding the stick was for the angle of the drum, but the concept of turning the wrist and the forearm was the same. It was George Stone that turned it this way, which gave us access to the finger style, for more sensitive orchestral kind of playing. We still get the power, and we could still use the Moeller to get it, but we don't. It's not field drumming anymore, so we don't need to.
One of the bigger questions, Alan, on the left hand.
Yeah.
A lot of guys are using a lot of thumb action.
Well, that's what I was going to get to. So that's the rotation. So that's the So the rotation really is this. And if I'm not using my thumb, I'm just moving my hand this way. It has, the stick has got to do something else. So a lot of guys use their thumb. Yeah. And that's why I say what I do is not traditional. Because, I mean, I use my thumb, but I'm not using my thumb to control the stick individually like a finger, you know. I use my thumb as part of the weight of the rest of my hand. So my thumb is moving with my hand, and the weight of my thumb and the placement of my thumb helps me to balance the weight better around the stick. You know, I think I demonstrated with. I don't even need my thumb really to play. Yeah, my thumb is underneath. Okay. I'm holding the stick with my index finger, and I'm moving, and I'm using the stroke of my wrist. My thumb is not even over. Now, it makes it difficult to balance the stick in this position. So it works better this way because then I got some weight on the other side of the rotation, and it helps balance the stick out better. But I'm not using the thumb in this way. I mean, I can. I mean, it's available, and you know. But I found that the more I use my thumb, the more damage I do to myself. And I'm using the index finger instead, even when I'm playing fingers. I'm not generating it from the thumb. Okay? And I'm generating everything mostly from the wrist. And what makes the stick turn is my entire hand being in the carriage of my hand. So I'm not trying to push the stick or play with the stick. I'm just moving my hand, and the stick is part of my hand, so the stick moves with my hand because I move my hand. Okay?
Well, another question, Alan.
Yes.
The term quad and accented quad,
The accented quads, yeah.
they want to know what exactly that is.
An accented quad, well, a quad is 4 notes, which is like a paradiddle is a quad. Left-hand paradiddle. It's a quad. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm playing quads. Some people also refer to it as a grid. When you talk about accents, they look at it like a grid. Okay, so an accented quad would be a quad with an accent. And I could do it in a lot of different stickings. Here's a double stroke sticking. Paradiddle sticking. One hand, but they're quads. I'm hitting an accent every 4th note. Groups of 4s.
Take the snares off.
You want me to hit the snare drum?
No, take the snares off.
Take it off. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so you're better off. You get a better sound.
It's loud stuff,
No, he
man.
wants
Man, I
We're
really
getting
don't.
vibration.
Okay.
Anyway,
Now the grid I was talking about is you could place. I like to do this with stick control. It's a great way to do stick control. You can place the accent in different positions in the quad. There's 4 positions that you can put the accent in. You can put it in the first position. Let me play some bass drum so you can know what the position is supposed to be. Or you can put it in the second position. Or you can put it in the third position. Or you can put it in the 4th position. That's called the quad. Did that with singles. It gets really interesting when you start doing doubles and paradiddles with that quad. The paradiddle is really interesting because it brings up almost every issue you're going to have trying to play single accent paradiddle combinations. Watch. It's every accent problem there is. No accent, accent, tap, tap, accent. The only problem it doesn't cover is this one. It's 2 in a row. But I have a great exercise for that. Matter of fact, this would be great if we could do this now. Do you have the... because molar is only good for the single accent.
What do you need?
It's only good for the single accent. If you got 2 in a row, molar's not enough. You don't have time for that.
Anyway.
You have the Wilcoxon book?
Someplace.
There's an exercise in the Wilcoxon book, a parallel exercise that really gives you the integration between using the molar single stroke accent, single accent functionality, and adding to that having to use a double accent as well, which adds a four-arm stone kind of accent.
It's going to take you a little while to find it.
Well, all right.
I hear you.
Well, you got it?
Yep.
It's a really good exercise, and this is. Is that it? Yeah, that's a different cover now. I got the original cover. This book was given to me by Joe Morello. I mean, you know, we worked the stick control book, and he used that, and we worked the access to rebounds, and he liked to use the portraits of
You
rhythm.
didn't have to use, open at the second page.
And we used the portraits of rhythm when he wanted to do reading material. But when we were doing when he was showing me rudiments, this is the book.
They can't see it. We got a deck out right
Oh, okay. Yeah.
there. They know what it
He gave me this one to work on, and the single paratital has some combination routines that address the issue of this single accent as opposed to a double accent presentation. When you're working with control strokes, there's no issue here at all. When you're doing full strokes and control strokes, there's no issue whatsoever doing any of these accents. But as soon as you get into an accelerated pace and start doing whips or molars or whatever you want to call it, the single accents have, improved greatly, but the double accents become inaccessible. Okay. So he liked working with these combinations, these 5 accent combinations. Now you learn them one at a time, and I learned them using control strokes, which is much harder to do than using whips. But you would learn them one at a time, and then he would want you to do them from one to the other, to go through them, sort of like what I did with the grid just now. The first one's easy. The first one's just a straight paradiddle. The second one is the second partial of the grid. All right, so put the two together, and the first 2 exercises are this. It's the molar part. It's all molar.
Okay, 2 more questions, then we're going to wrap it up.
All right, now the third exercise is you have 2 accents in a row. The third exercise is this. It's okay, so I'm using the molar for the first one, but I can't do that. So what I'm doing is I'm using a free stroke at the end of the molar. So I'm allowing it to come back up at the end of the molar. Now I'm in position for a full stroke. Right, so I'm doing molar whip up, and then I'm in position for my down control. And I get two that way. Okay, so now we're up to okay. The next one he did was this one. Same situation, a molar into a free stroke, into a down control. And the last one is the reverse of that, when you have them on the down beats. So you put those together, then you have all of the problems that come up, you know, with the molar and without the molar, with, you know, the stone stuff and the molar stuff. You need to use it all. Okay.
No showing off.
And
Okay.
Wilcoxon, man, great book, great paradiddle. You could do that, then you can do anything you want with a paradiddle. Okay.
All right, two more questions, and then two things get a little confusing. Very, you know, the sticking heights, or I mean sticking positions rather, and control strokes. You know, somebody calls a free stroke a full stroke, or a full stroke a free stroke. So just a basic kind of view of what a full stroke is, what a downstroke is, a control stroke. You know, sticking positions. So separate the both of them.
All right. So I did the whole thing on the free stroke. I mean, the whole lesson was free stroke. So, okay, I need to cover the control stroke now. Now, when I say free stroke, I didn't give it a level. And I said free, but I did say it was a full stroke. So I'm talking about two different things. I'm talking about two things now. I'm talking about free stroke and I'm talking about full stroke. And it's the same stroke. But am I talking about the same thing? No. There's two things that identify a stroke. You know, there's a beginning to the stroke and there's an end to the stroke. Okay? Where the stroke starts is determined by the level. Where the level that the stick is at, where it begins. That determines how loud or how soft it's going to be, or the potential energy for acceleration available, depending on how high the stick is in level. But that doesn't really describe the type of stroke it is. What happens to that stroke after its initiation? There's two types of strokes. There's the free stroke, and we know how that winds up. It winds up where it began. Control stroke is a different situation. It could start out as a full stroke. So a full stroke could be a free stroke or a control stroke, because it's just the place where we begin. If it was a free stroke, then it would be a full stroke for the next stroke as well. In other words, the preparation for the next stroke would also be full. The idea is to get in a position for the next stroke at the end of the previous stroke. That's the whole concept of the efficiency. Is that as soon as you're done using your hand, you got to get it to the next place you need to use it in. And the quicker you can do that, the faster you can play. All right. So the control stroke determines the outcome to be something else other than free. It doesn't come back to where it started from, and that's why it's control. And you have two types, because you can stop it on the way down or you can stop it on the way up. I mean, you could, when you're high, when you're at the highest position, in full stroke position, you can't use an upstroke because you're at the top of your range. So the only stroke you can do is down. And when you're low, close to the head, you can't go down any further because you'll touch the head again. So the only place you can go is up. So there's only an upstroke. But in the middle, you have an opportunity. That's why we have 3 levels. Okay? In the middle, there's an opportunity to either go up or down. So if we want to play an accent, we get up to the high level. Then we get down to the lower level to play lower. If we want to play a grace note or a rough, we got to get down to the lower level to play the rough, and then get back up to the tap to play. So we use these 3 levels. When we play rudiments, to play accents, tap strokes, and grace notes. Accent level, tap level, grace note level. Okay, it's a great system. Gets a little complicated when you get into some of these rudiments. So there's 2 things we need to know. We need to know where we start, and we need to know where we end up. So where we start is the level. It's called that, and that could be full, or it could be half, or it could be quarter, or anything in between. These are just done for practical purposes. So we can talk about positions. We got to locate some of them so we can talk about them. But really, the positions are, innumerable. All kinds of gradations in the heights that you can use. But we practice specific levels so that we get used to changing level to level cleanly and being able to attain the same level and the same sound when we want to, so we can mix the loud sound and the soft sound and the grace note sound and get it nice and clean. So the 2 things we need is the level of the stroke, which is full or it's half, or and then whether it's full or whether it's half or whether it's quarter, we have to know whether the outcome of the stroke is going to be a free stroke, which means the outcome is the same as the beginning, or the outcome is going to be a control stroke, which means it's either going to be higher or lower than when we started. And you need to know both of those things, because one tells you where you begin and how loud the note's going to be, and the other one tells you where you're going to wind up and how loud the next note's going to be.
Okay, you ready? One more question.
Okay?
Doubles.
What about them?
Develop doubles.
Developed, oh man, that's a whole nother lesson.
So when you come back, you can do that.
All right, but it's good. You remember I was talking about there's different stages you go through with acceleration? The stage 1, and then you speed it up, and you get a stage 2, which is continuous motion. And then I talked about a stage 3 where I start adding my fingers. I'm using wrist and fingers. And then there's a stage 4 with doubles where you're just bouncing 2 with 1 stroke. So doubles have the same thing. Depending on these, depending on the speed, the tempo that you're playing, you have to do different things physically. When you're playing when you're playing stick control book, this is a double stroke roll. You may not think it is until you get down here, but this is the double stroke roll in stage 1. Now it doesn't. Now I'm in stage 2, double stroke roll. So there was a change. Something happened. Something changed. As I sped up, I had to make a negotiation about changing what I was doing with my hands without having it affect the sound of the stick. Right? Nice and smooth. Now if I want to play faster, I got to bring it down, because at full stroke level, that's a power level. And if we want to play a faster roll, then we have to bring the level down, but we're still doing the same thing with our wrists. Playing stage 2 at a lower level. After a while, though, we reach about the max that we could do with our wrists, which at that point, we started adding a finger stroke to the second stroke. So we're initiating mainly with the wrist, and then having like a push-pull, they call it, I guess, where I get 2 strokes quickly together, but I'm not using 2 wrist strokes. I'm using a heavy wrist stroke, and then I'm adding fingers to the second stroke. which is a different technique than this. And then when I did this, now I'm using finger. And I can speed that up. After a while, it gets so fast my fingers can't move that quickly. So I can't have a secondary stroke with the finger. I got to make the finger the primary stroke with the wrist and then just bounce the second stroke. So let me do this on a snare drum, and I'm going to go through all the stages now. I'm going to go through I'm going to go from all levels. Okay?
Okay, guys, I hope everybody had a good time today, and you're going to get a black screen right now. And I hope everybody's learned something, and we're all going to thank Alan. And he's going to be coming back as soon as possible. Maybe he just wants to rent a room here, or I'll give him a room. And you have a compliments. Great hands, Mr. Allen. So we're going to close it up, gentlemen. And I hope everybody had a great time and enjoyed Alan's approach and learned a whole lot. Because I'm sitting here and I've been dealing with Alan since 8 o'clock this morning. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but I think it's pretty good. Thank you, Alan. Okay, guys, we'll see everybody tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you.
Good. I got to, yeah.